Thank you so much for supporting me on the Idi Amin video. I'm proud to say that it literally blew up and it's the most watched video on this channel. So if you haven't watched it yet, I've left a link in the description below. And guess what, guys? We finally made it to 1K subscribers. Woohoo! I'm not allowed to shout. It's 2 a.m. I don't know what time you will be watching this, but I'd like to thank you so very much for all the support. If you are new here, go ahead and do it the way we do it. Hit the like button, smash it if that's something you're into, and feel free to also share it with your your friends. It's absolutely free here. And what else do we do here? Right to my left, there is a red button. Go ahead and caress it and join this beautiful family. With no further ado, let's get right into this video.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. President Trump's Oval Office address last night, it was an absolute disaster. All right, but there was a silver lining. Because you see, for some strange reason, the cameras were recording Trump before he gave his address. All right? But he didn't realize it was rolling. And so today, we got to see the real Trump when he's not acting presidential. And honestly, this was pure comedy gold.
You want to do this for me, Alex, please? What's our time?
2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Do you like the book being on the desk or not? Or would you rather have it not be? Maybe it looks better. It gives you something up here, right? Does it matter? A what? Wow. Uh-oh. I got a pen mark. Anybody have any white? Do you have any white stuff?
Oh, does anyone have any white stuff? Now, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Donald Trump is as freaked out by coronavirus as regular citizens, which is wild because he's the president. And the reason I say that is because it turns out the cameras carried on rolling after Trump ended his speech. And his reaction was priceless.
God bless you and God bless America. Thank you.
We're clear.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. That is not the sound you want to hear from a president after a serious address.
I will not hesitate. My orders are sa police pati military, pati mga barangay, na pagka ginulo at nagkaroon ng okasyon na lumaban at ang buhay ninyo ay nalagay sa alanganin, shoot them dead. Alam mo, we are ready for you. Gulo o barilan o patayan, I will not hesitate. My soldiers to shoot you. I will not hesitate to order the police to arrest and detain you. Ngayon, pag kayo ang na-detain, bahala kayo sa pagkain ninyo.
That when you look at this virus, we got 3.5 months worth of data now, 150 countries. If you apply all the analytics that Microsoft, all the analytics that we can possibly apply to this, is how this is going to sort of progress and end knowable? I mean, can you give a clear answer depending on what sort of mitigation measures we have in place?
It's very likely that rich countries who uniformly throughout their country do a serious shutdown, that they will be able to avoid a high percentage of their population getting infected. That's what the exemplars, like some of the work in China and South Korea, are telling us. Now, as you get to poorer countries, the difficulty of doing the isolation, where you live close by in slums, where you have to go out every day to get your food, it is going to be much tougher. And so, by summer, I think the rich countries that have been competently led on this will not have to go back into shutdown. And, from the disease point of view, they'll avoid very large numbers of deaths.
Then it's good to have hopes and aspirations, but it's good also to know what's actually coming down the pike. For people who are believing or imagining that, in middle of April or early April, people are going to be able to gather together in churches for Easter celebrations, or go back to work in a regular way, it sounding like you're saying that's not, you don't believe that's realistic.
No, it's not realistic. The numbers are still going up. That only happens after the numbers have peaked and are going down a lot and getting down to an absolute level.
Why do you keep using this? A lot
Because
of
it
people
comes
say
from
it's
China.
racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate. Yeah, please, John.
As many parts of the world slow down or temporarily stop due to the worst effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are experiencing how sensitive life is. Epidemics of previous years have taught us lessons about the vulnerability of individual countries and regions, but a worldwide impact like this was previously unthinkable. The sector in which I work, which is the travel and tourism industry, is trending as one of the most hit sectors globally. At the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, we branded it an unanticipated moment of viral madness, but it has influenced travel advisories. It's forced companies to postpone or cancel trips, and it has also resulted into the delaying of conferences and events that have been organized by DMCs, destination management companies, and it's also incredibly influencing travel behavior. It's also created a whole lot of worldwide anxiety. Airlines, hotels, and tour operators around the world are facing a crisis of unfathomable measure. No money is coming in at this time, but the overheads still need to be met. Staff have been temporarily laid off, while in some cases they've been sent home with partial payment. This is characteristic of sectors. In most industries, almost all breadwinners are in a similar situation today. Now, as countries go into partial or total lockdown, I think we are presented with a hopeful window of opportunity, especially for nation states on the African continent. And my heart is warmed at how fast we humans are returning to the knowledge of what's actually important in life. Take the example of Uganda, where I come from, a country I dearly love. A phased or rather gradual lockdown has been announced by the government, led by the president himself. And I must say it's been a very interesting phase of events to watch. It all began to feel serious when travelers from affected parts of the world were asked to delay or rather postpone inessential travel to Uganda. And then there was a temporary halt on all gatherings. Schools had to be temporarily closed. Religious and cultural events were suspended for a period of 32 days. Our usual large weddings were also put on hold and all replaced by scientific weddings, as the president calls them. Then we heard about the suspension of passenger traffic. So all exit and entry into Uganda was temporarily suspended. And then that was followed by a ban on all flights into the country, apart from flights bringing in cargo. And then that also meant that all trucks that were coming through the border with cargo were also to be permitted, but no passengers were allowed to cross the border, which I think was good that the government thought it wise to ensure that there was a continuous flow of essentials into and out of the country, exports and imports. And then just recently we had the suspension of all public transportation, which was then followed by the suspension of all transport, including private transport. And then at that point, people were asked to stay home, apart from what was branded the essential services like the health, the supermarkets, markets, agriculture, and just what you call essentials of the economy. But a typical example of how fast we humans are returning to the knowledge of what's important has been in our transportation system. What has intrigued me the most so far has been the little or no resistance from the guys or the folks in the transportation business, in the public transportation business. Often with previous government directives, you'd have the taxis, or we call them matatus, usually they're vans with blue stripes across them, and the borders who usually you would equate them to a motorcycle taxi. They are usually resistant to any type of change. But surprisingly, this time they whined a bit and then they went home, which was quite shocking. It was quite clear it's not the usual. Would usually put up heated fight or riot. You could say that there was an evident threat that they could face the law if they acted in resistance to the directives of the government. But this has always been the case. Those directives are always there, and the security is always there to be deployed and ensure that people do not riot. Having watched the response to this threat over the past 3 weeks, I've come to believe that this is a force more than just the security guys on the streets. Back to the question of whether you should complain about the lockdown. Absolutely not. The health authorities speak about flattening the curve, and having learned how the disease spreads, it does make sense that they try to slow down its spread by limiting human-to-human interactions. For you and me, being away from work with no new income, locked up in our homes, might feel like a prison. And if it doesn't feel like a prison, then it perhaps feels like some form of refuge that we are running to away from an invisible enemy. Without the lockdown, however, some countries around the world could be sent more than 2 decades backwards. In all this, a very loud bell of what's essential in life is sound. We have been reminded about the value of the bonds that we share with family. We have been reminded about the importance of checking on friends. We have been reminded to think about our health. We've also been reminded about being thankful for each and every meal of the day. We've also been reminded about revaluing the significance of little things like the air we breathe, or the lovely sounds of the birds singing in the morning. And above all, we've returned to the knowledge that God holds this world in His hands. In all this, for me, this has been the most important lesson for us: revisiting priorities. Now, looking forward post-COVID, I'll start with the businesses. If you operate a business, there are 2 scenarios. Now, scenario number 1 is you could sit back and wait to regain market share or risk to be phased out after this ends. Because certainly business models and approaches are definitely going to change depending on the extent to which the situation will have transformed the market. Scenario number 2, you could create a strategy now based on the capital that you have built over the last many years. And it is this strategy that will help you get things fast and running when the recovery phase comes. And by the way, when I talk about capital, it's not just the finance, but it is the human resource or the staff that you've taught your philosophy over the years. And how you react now determines the future of how your business will be after this episode. So having talked about the businesses, it is also important to kind of introspectively think about our personal or individual lives. Will we pledge to be better people? Will we live more in harmony with one another? Will we pledge to protect and conserve the nature on which we thrive? Will we also pledge to be the best versions of ourselves? For many, but unfortunately not all, the significance of planning life breaks will be felt during or when this unprecedented time subsides. We will learn the importance of breaks to sit back, breaks to assess or re-evaluate, breaks to re-strategize, breaks to recoup strength, and breaks that we previously didn't really think were important. It is pretty dire and unclear when this nightmare will end. But one certain thing I know is that it will certainly end. Finally, many of you have different plans for this lockdown period. For some of you, it might include becoming a backyard birder. For others, it might be setting family or individual goals. Maybe wasting your entire days on the couch with some Netflix awesomeness. It might include going down the YouTube rabbit hole. And yeah, please make it an effort to go through the channel. It might also include checking out some workout videos. Maybe playing some indoor and outdoor games, dancing, catching up with kids and friends, staying appraised of in-the-time news, or keeping in touch with friends, maybe resurrecting or starting a side gig. It could also include doing something educational or fulfilling. I know for the ladies, you might be thinking about sorting the house, clearing your wardrobe, maybe looking up or creating some new recipes, baking some goodness, giving yourself a manicure, reading a book, or maybe starting a blog. I almost forgot making a travel bucket list if you don't have one, or updating one if you do have one. In all this, it will all be very important that we make it an effort to remain mentally healthy and sane. Don't forget to wash your hands or sanitize frequently. Don't forget to cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. Maybe use a tissue. Don't give up on practicing social distancing or staying away from crowds. Refrain from sharing fake news. Although this might not be directly impactful on you, but it might pose risk or it might put someone else's life in danger. And finally, do not forget to subscribe. I love you. Take care. Catch you in the next one. Peace. Oh, before I hang up, is hang up even the right word to use? One of you reached out and proposed the idea of starting a travel podcast. Is this something you guys would be interested in? Let me know in the comment section below.